Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I'm going to jump right into it. And a few things I want to talk about that have been getting a lot of discussion this past week or two. And one is Tyler Street and some of the changes that we're going to see coming up in that area. And you know what? The other big thing I'm going to jump to is the Ordinance and Rules meeting from the other night, because the city council has been discussed a lot, and this is an election year. And last night's or a couple nights ago, the Ordinance and Rules meeting, it needs to be discussed. It was interesting, to say the least. So, yeah. So anyway, Tyler Street. We'll start with Tyler Street. So, some of the big changes you're going to see coming to that area are, for one, at the intersection of Tyler, Dalton Ave, and Woodlawn, they're going to put in a rotary there. And I think it's a good idea. I listened to the engineer speak on this, and when you look at that intersection, and especially now that Woodlawn is getting traffic, it's finally getting a lot of use now. That is a problem. Something does need to be done there. And when you talk to people in that area, they all know it. So I think a rotary could be a really good thing, and it could be this cool gateway to Tyler Street, slow traffic down, which does need to happen. And so you can increase pedestrian traffic there. I can't speak this morning. Pedestrian traffic, and slow things down. I guess speed bumps probably don't work here because we have to plow, and I thought about that. How would all that work? Or maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know how effective they are. But a rotary would definitely slow things down. The bicycle lanes that they're proposing, well, they're going to do it. And it's kind of a continuation from what is happening on North Street. I'm not all for that. For a lot of reasons. I'm not against having safe travel for people on bicycles. Who would be against that? I'm not against that at all. What was done on North Street, I don't know. Again, I've been over this 100 times, it seems like, but when you look at our area and you look at the demographics here, a median age of near 50 years old. So you have a large senior citizen population. Then you look at the geography of the area and the seasons here, and how much time out of the year are people using bicycles? Is this an area where people are using it for transportation? Not really. I mean, if this was like Key West or somewhere in Florida, or, where you have nice weather year round and you can actually use a bicycle as transportation all the time, then obviously having the roads and everything is a priority, or would be. But for us here, it's confusing. The layout is confusing. And it's not, as far as to look at its physical appeal, it's very unattractive. It looked like a construction site with cones up. I don't know. So that's the other part. I'm not for that. The rotary, I'm all for. Safe travel for bicycles, I'm all for. I wish they would be a little bit more open to maybe public discussion on this a little further on the what goes on with the bicycles, and maybe they will be. But I think overall, we're going to see some good improvements and some strong improvements to Tyler Street. Milltown, Capital, has been making a ton of investment in the area. Bosque and Berkshire West being the big one. But and I'm all for it. I mean, driving by Bosque this year. Now, the Farmer's Almanac was right. Very cold and a lot of snow. And for someone to purchase Bosque, you couldn't have asked for a better season here to do it. And driving by there, it's been packed. And seeing people enjoying themselves and having fun and seeing that whole mountain come to life again, I'm excited with some of the work that Milltown has done. I'm all for it. I know a lot of people think they're a little freaked out because they're like, wow, they're buying everything up. And it is kind of like a form of gentrification, but in a good way. I see it that way. to try to bring back somewhat of a middle class, and then to take the people here that are below middle class and elevate them up to it, or back up to it. So I support the work that Milltown's doing here. So far, I don't see anything that is negative. So I'm excited to see what they'll be doing. I'm excited to hear, the mayor had mentioned a possible business coming to North Street that would be a unique amenity. I'm excited to hear more on that. Stephanie Wilson, God, if she ends up, for those of you who don't know who Stephanie is from, well, she's not from Pittsfield, but she lived in Pittsfield. She went to school here. She's in my age group. And Stephanie is an astronaut and could be the first woman to walk on the moon, which would be incredible for Pittsfield. I could picture like a statue of her in front of one of the schools or something, where we could get all these science grants, and I mean that's awesome. So I hope that does happen. It's not set in stone. She's part of this team. It could happen. I hope it does. That would just be great for Stephanie, great for the world, and great for Pittsfield. So anyway, before I wrap it up, because I can go on, the Ordinance and Rules meeting the other night. So there was a few things discussed, and the Ordinance Rules is a subcommittee which consists of, I think it was chaired by our Ward 3 Councilor, Nick Cacamo, and then there's Councilor Fuccio, Councilor Persip, Councilor Cavey, possibly Councilor White, I think maybe on that one. I should know this, but I don't. You can look up this meeting. I don't know everyone on every subcommittee. But so I decided to watch this meeting because one of the big things they were discussing was the mayor was there, and Mayor Tyre was asking Ordinance and Rules for their approval $90,000 worth of pay raises for city employees. I think it was like 14 or 20 city employees. I forget. It was $90,000 in pay raises for non-contracted, non-union city employees. And our head of HR, our personnel director, Mr. Taylor, Michael Taylor, was there, and they were asking for a considerable raise for him. Now, he makes, I think it's like $75,000 a year. That was brought up. He felt a little funny about that, but that is public information. So anyway, so the raises was brought up. It gets to Councilor Fuccio. He says no. And he goes on saying this is not a time for this. Councilor Cavey asked Matt Kerwood, basically, he said, Patrick Cavey said to Matt Kerwood, you keep dancing around the question, which is, are we in a position to give out raises right now to city employees? And Matt Kerwood, our finance director, said yes. Bottom line, yes. But this got so heated. Okay, so when Councilor Fuccio, let me back up just one step. Councilor Persip, it gets to him. He supports this. He starts saying some other stuff. He starts talking about the GE Economic Development Fund, and he said that we've been good stewards of that fund, and nobody can say that we haven't, which is, that surprised me. That's a whole nother conversation, because there was some controversial stuff. But anyway, he says, he kept repeating himself, saying that we need to give Michael Taylor, our HR guy, this pay raise, because what he's making now is not comparable to what other communities are paying, and we'll lose him. He could quit, and we can't afford to have this position empty. It'll take too long to fill, and it'll be empty. So he did say that quite a few times. So then it goes back to Councilor Fuccio, and Councilor Fuccio says to Mr. Taylor, so Mr. Taylor, if you do not get this pay raise, will you be leaving? Are you going to quit? And as soon as he said that, Mayor Tyre interjected and said, I can't allow you to ask that question. And then Councilor Fuccio started yelling at Mayor Tyre, and then he started yelling, point of order, point of order. And again, it was a typical watching our city councilors, it was typical. And that's the point. Matt Kerwood spoke up, and he cut off Patrick Cavey. He just cut him right off, which was kind of rude, but at the same time, necessary, I thought, because even Matt Kerwood, who I disagree with on a lot of stuff, had finally just like, what are we doing here? Because this was a perfect example of how this city council acts. It is fighting and screaming in every council meeting, all these subcommittee meetings, they've become about the councilors. And you can just sit there and watch them for hours fight with each other about who's right, who's wrong, who's doing this, who can we remove, who can, and it's gotten so out of control. I warned of that in the beginning, that when they said all petitions could be accepted, I said it over and over. You can go back and watch the videos where I said it. You're opening the floodgates where now it's just going to be people submitting petitions to have councilors removed because of what they did. And when I say they, our city council president and the city councilors trying to remove our Ward 4 city councilor, Chris Connell, and doing what they did to him publicly, like put him on trial almost. And they've created this sideshow. And now, in my opinion, we need to sweep the council. And this is an election year, and it's not a personal attack on any of the councilors, but this drama and soap opera that they have built is just too out of control. And there needs to be civility back on that council for a lot of reasons. Good things could be happening for Pittsfield because there's a lot of federal money. And that's the truth. A lot of federal money being doled out, and we could get a lot of assistance from the state and from the federal government for projects, and we could end up coming out on the better side of things. And because of that, we need a council that can be responsible, are adult enough and mature enough to be able to work with each other on the issues without making it personal about them and all about emotion. So I hope more people run. There's quite a few I know that will be running, but I hope the public remembers this, and it's not a personal attack on any of the counselors, but it's the only way for it to stop is just get new counselors, because there's too much to risk losing. There really is. There's just too much. There's going to be a lot of money on the table, and if it's not done right, it's going to be a disaster. If it's done right, it could really, really turn the city around. So that's it for now. And that's enough. And, maybe eventually I'll get a haircut. I don't know. I realized today when I was getting dressed, last year I didn't buy any clothes because I barely left my house like most people. So I'm like, and then I wear things usually for 2 years. So I'm on 2.5, 3 years on the same clothes now. I noticed that. I don't know why. I said, man, I've been wearing this stuff. And of course, somehow my hair keeps growing, but hair has a tendency to do that, and I'm thankful that I still have hair. So that is it for now, for the fourth time, and I'll catch everyone either Friday or Saturday. So have a good weekend. Be safe. Get out there. We're opening up, but do it safely. Let's be safe about that. I get a little paranoid about that, but we do need to open up, and let's do that safely. So everybody be safe, be good, and I'll catch y'all in the next day or two.